The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. There's still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, my group would just jump in and help out. It was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
We are the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, HVERI for short. A lot of people know us from the 2018 eruption of Kīlauea in the Lower East Rift Zone. Working under Hawaii Tracker on the Facebook group. Since then, we've been trying to carry on and take the lessons, the hard lessons that were learned during that eruption and try and prepare for the next major disaster that comes to our island.
Yeah, so we do that through two different programs. One is volcano education, and the other part is digital resilience, which we address through online groups on social media. So the way the two programs work together is that the social media networks end up being a distribution pathway for all the information. And having that network in place means we can provide more than just volcano education, but any other preparedness information as well.
What we were working for really came about in the Mauna Loa eruption in 2022. Within hours of that eruption starting, we had the mayor, Mitch Roth, we had USGS-HVO Ken Hahn on the stream trying to help flush out a little bit of the ongoing because it's so new. It's completely different from our previous major eruption, which was 2018.
One of the things that Talmadge and I were talking about was how do we deal with social media? It was something we needed to figure out and get right. Our job is to get information to the public and make sure that the public get it as well as possible and as correctly as possible. When Philip and Dan started coming to and live streaming the meetings, it was great because we were reaching more people than we normally would. So when the eruption actually happened, we had this relationship. The interviews we did during the eruption, the most fun ones were the ones with Philip and Dave because they were more relaxed and we knew we were getting to the local community and people were asking questions. So those were the best, I think. I just want to really give a shout out to those guys and how we worked as a team on this eruption. It really worked out well and we got to a lot of people we wouldn't have normally gotten.
And welcome to our Hawaiian Volcano Tracker for December 18th, 2025. Today we'll be reviewing the almost 1 year of Kīlauea's summit eruptions, episodes of lava fountains, and touch briefly on the signals happening now. It's been pretty quiet overall, apart from a Wagyu week on Kīlauea. How are you doing today, Dane? How's your week been?
Doing good. Yeah, just kind of wet down here and wait, nice to have it finally cool off a little bit. Waiting for the next episode, which, out on the horizon somewhere.
Yeah, not too far away. Maybe from as soon as 4 days away to 9 days away, somewhere in that range, right? From a few days before Christmas to a few days after Christmas, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But in any case, this will be our last planned update of the year. We'll review what's happening now, take a break for a few weeks here, and come back in January to resume when Volcano Awareness Month is well underway. So
Yep, hit the ground going.
Yeah,
Plenty
sure.
to do in January.
So we have Lou in the back end as well. He'll jump in here when the time is right as well. Otherwise, Dane and Lou will be leading discussion on the chat, collecting questions for us to discuss. Anything else, Dane, before we get into it here?
No, I think that's it. Let's do it.
All right. A couple buttons we got to push here to get everything laid out just right. And all right. Let's start with this. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is our Hawaiian Volcano summary for December 18th, 2025. 12 days have passed since Kīlauea's episode 38. An eruption is still currently paused, with monitoring signals suggesting the next episode will come sometime between December 22nd and 27th. This past week has been very foggy. This is a view from the V1 camera from the daytime, where you can see much of the time the camera is whited out. While at nighttime, there's only been a little bit of glow from either the north vent or the south vent and some of the cracks surrounding the areas as well. This being the views from nighttime for the past week of the V1 camera. So pretty quiet on Kīlauea surface. We do mark about a year of eruption here. And so this view here of the S2 camera, which has been destroyed in this most recent episode, shows us a view of the last year of eruption. In that time, there's been more than 52 billion gallons or 199 million cubic meters of lava erupted. That's filled a crater that's 1.5 square miles or almost 4 square kilometers by an average of 223 feet or 68 meters. So that's more lava now during this past year than the previous 5 summit eruptions that lasted the 3 years prior. Right. So now, ever since 2018, we've doubled how much the crater is filled within this last year. Another way to think of it. So we'll recap the last year more fully in our full update. But here you can see the ground tilt for the volcano, showing the resuming pattern, building to an episode 39, with continuing inflation and tremor signals, as noted by the USGS, with the onset noted between the 22nd and 27th, as we mentioned. One other note of the update is that we're currently up to more than double the regular emission rates during the inter-episode periods, which means that the Kona winds that are dominant now in the wintertime are bringing a lot of fog into the Hilo areas and elsewhere around the island as well. This is a fog forecast from the VMAP project, showing those particulates blowing to the north all the way to Hamakua, all the way to South Point, depending on which of the next 48 hours you're looking at. Our citizen science monitoring network through Purple Air has shown variable readings throughout the day. For example, near the crater here, dipping into the yellows and occasionally the reds over the course of the day in a national park. We have a new image released with the extent of the lava within Kīlauea crater and statistics noted here on the map. But otherwise, everything is contained to the summit. While elsewhere in the volcano, we see earthquakes on the south flank, but no action in either rift zone, as you see here. Earthquake counts continue on the south flank as the volcano adjusts to that summit expansion, but still fluctuate around that average background rate that we've seen for much of the past year, ever since the onset of the summit eruption Looking briefly at Mauna Loa, the USGS still has it at a normal alert level, returning to long-term background levels. And we can see that here, that in the GPS distance north and south across the caldera, we had a brief interval of contraction, but have resumed the extension of Mauna Loa summit, with magma with it extending and rising once again, indicating a long-term refilling of that volcano. Earthquake counts did spike during that adjustment, and perhaps more south flank adjustments of Mauna Loa may be coming. But we're back to the background level here, as you can see in the earthquake counts per week, and noting the very small size of that bump in the earthquake counts per month compared to the buildup ahead of the 2022 eruption. And that's our Hawaiian Volcano summary for this week. So, all right, let's get to our hazard summary. As we mentioned, the VOG has been the main issue around here. So I'll start off showing you guys this view from the B1 camera, just the daytime views of the VOG blowing. And normally trade winds would blow this gas all in that direction. So when the winds are weak, it blows more straight up. But when we have strong Kona winds, as is the majority of this video, you see the gas blowing left to right across here and occasionally blocking the camera here. There are some other weather clouds joining in here as well, but you can see the track of this plume low to the ground all the way across the inner crater here. This is the steam vents overlooking the national park, so that's an area that could have impacts because of this persistent wind direction here. So turning now to the K2 camera, this is the one at Wikahuna Overlook. And the overlook is right down in here. You can see people can get pretty close, and occasionally the wind is blowing this VOG over to the left. But much of the time, the overlook is not compromised. There are times where the VOG does blow and whites out the entire camera and the overlook as well. And finally, we'll look at the V2 camera, which is the view from the volcano house, and it ends up zoomed in. But from a distance, you can see a little bit of the wind direction blowing left or right or towards the field of view here, as an indication of the VOG over the past week as well. So when zoomed in, it gets a little bit more obstructed in the shift of the wind and the fumes there. So turning to the VOG measurement and prediction program, VMAP, and looking at their VOG forecast dashboard, first for the sulfur dioxide, pure SO2 component of the gas. You can see here for the next 48 hours, the plume is blowing off to the north and offshore. And you can see these highest concentrations occurring north of the island, and then eventually within 48 hours, shifting and wrapping back across the saddle to the south part of the island. This first frame here is going north, and here comes wrapping around. That's SO2. If we look at the SO4, that lingers a little bit longer and further. That's where you see these effects as far as Hamakua and all the way to North Kona, across the saddle, all the way to Waikoloa, and wrapping around South Point as well. Presently, all the sensors showing green. It's not being detected and averaged out there. So that's our VMAP. We can turn to our monitor data, first from the state of Hawaii. And let's look at all their monitors. And while there are elevated readings, nothing is in the yellow or orange or red. But for example, we could look at Pahala and note fluctuations close to the yellow, or perhaps in Mountain View or in Hilo, which actually did enter the yellow earlier today, for example there. We'll also look at the Purple Air Citizen Science Network, which incorporates some of the government monitors as well as citizen data. So for example, here, if we zoom all the way in and come to this national park station, that's the one that's going into the orange and almost a purple there. Maybe that's hard to see. Let's try to zoom it in more if we can. So there we go. There's a view for the last couple of days there. And as the wind changes direction, that's when it blows it across the sensor and makes it visible there. Okay. So those are some of the current impacts, but I can also look at some of the other stations around, and you can see that there's also been fairly widespread impact there. And let's look down here at the ocean view area. And that doesn't seem to be working. Let's try that one. And there you see it actually does spike quite a bit at this Kahuku facilities station. So certainly if you're downwind, even in these inter-episode periods, as we mentioned, there's elevated gas right now already. So over 3,000 tons per day is a background. It'll jump to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands during the actual episode itself. But it's still quite a bit in between, but especially with these changing wind directions. If it happens to be blasting right at you, take shelter and take cover. It might be very localized and hopefully won't last very long if it's shifting around that quickly. So that's our purple air. And coming to the National Park website, let's look here. We actually have on their site, for once, 2 stations showing in the orange, which is a rare sight for us to see. That must mean that there is not that the averages are actually long-term in the orange. So let's look at the charts and see there that, yeah, the Art Center earlier today was bad, but not so bad now, both in SO2 and particulate matter. The station's offline. Uekahuna, you can see, has had quite a bit of orange over the afternoon here. The campground's okay, Kahuku's okay. The steam vents seem to have had quite a bit as well. That one is maybe worth zooming in on. Yeah. And even earlier, if you looked at yesterday as well, there was quite a bit of orange and red there also. So certainly follow park guidance if you're in the area, and limit your exposure or avoid entirely if you can help it, especially if you're one of these sensitive groups. So that's the almost all the hazard data. We have a satellite for the last week here, and really there's nothing too exciting, but it does show how, looking at many of the days of the last week, we have the wind blowing fog in a Kona direction there. Many of these days you can see is actually capturing Kona winds impacting. So it's a real thing. It's happening more persistently, and especially this month. And that is really the main hazard for the next, the whole holiday season here, is whether it's the fog in between episodes or the episodes themselves putting out the gas, the Pele's hair, the reticulite, that really light foamy tephra that can fly for a ways, any of it. All that's going to be dictated by the wind and the timing of the eruption based on the wind. And so that's still our main hazard. So as we're off air, keep that in mind. That's the main thing to watch out for still. Main hazard to people and to property, whether it's falling in your gutters or on your person or clothes or pets, all of that stuff is to be avoided there. So let's move on to our visuals, and we'll start with just looking at the past week here. And once again, this is just the daytime views from the V1 camera. But besides this fogged out view, you can see in the background here that there's this flow still moving, even in the last few days here. The camera zooms in for the last couple of days here, but there in the back, it does still move. Harder to see. I'll play that one more time. Back in here, all this material still moving under its own weight over that fluid, hot lava interior. That's the most exciting thing movement-wise. Otherwise, you see quite a lot of fog blocking the view. We pointed out the, you can see here, for example, when we look at the view, north vent is about in here, south vent's about in here. There's some cracks in this area. So when I come to show you the V1 camera at night, there is our north vent glowing and a crack next to it also glowing. Then we get the south vent occasionally there as well. The camera does get zoomed in and you see the crack a little closer. But that's all the excitement for nighttime. Looking at the KW camera for the last week, daytime view, a lot of fog blocking this view as well. And really the most exciting thing is, once again, this movement along this southwest wall and under where the V3 camera was. This whole area that got sprayed with all that lava, it's all still moving under its own weight. So moving on to the F1 camera for the last week. It likewise, this is going to go a little too slow here. Let's make this a little faster. All you see really is a little bit of movement back in here. Otherwise, not a whole lot of action. Some of the hot spots, you can see this low spot that collects lava in a pond and seems to slump and subside more, is holding extra heat in the thermal. But that's really all we can see here this week. And finally, the B1 camera for the last week, just the daytime views. And at first glance, not a whole lot changes. We can zoom in all the way to the slope by the vents. And there you see that there is this elevation change from the back wall to the slope, right? So that's why you see it moving and still coming down in that direction there. It's easier to see from this angle. That's the main thing you see change. You don't see much change on the crater floor, hardly anywhere, until you look right in here. And over the last week, all we see is right in here is some sagging of a fairly small area on the east side of the crater floor, but still speaking to the fact that we have some network of passageways of lava underneath this crust that seem to come and inflate when there's extra pressure and deflate when there's less pressure. And we're seeing some effect of that even this past week here, far away from the vents and a long time after the eruption has actually ended. So that's the last week. And looking at the live views, here's a V1 camera that is vogged out. And the V2 camera is also vogged out. And there you have it. Not a lot to see there right now. So we'll jump ahead to our monitoring signals, which we'll look at fairly quickly as well. And as we mentioned at the start here, there is still intermittent glow and tremor spikes indicative of gas pistoning in general. Over the last week, they happened to pause over the last 24 hours, but there is still, everything is still looking on track to go between the 22nd and 27th there. They noted the glow coming and going. Hard to tell because of low visibility, the VOG coming across the camera, or the actual absence of glow. Some of the gas pistoning is changing a little bit, but it's all minor change really. What's most important is that we've come up 25 microradians out of a 33 that we lost before. So not quite all the way there, but a good amount of the way back. And I think it's interesting that the gas rates are higher, because when we saw this before, that actually led to a little bit earlier onset than we expected. So I'll keep an eye on this gas rate being reported here, and if it stays high, then it may mean that there's fresher magma coming up, and maybe it's on the early side of the window, if anything. Just some speculation there, but it's interesting to note there, without any further refined data that we can look at before, like the rate before every episode here, just noting that when I do report it high, it has actually been interesting to note it coming. Right, so 3,400. Normally between episodes, we're between 1,200 and 1,500, so that's more than twice. And that is above the non-eruptive background when there is no eruption happening of around 100 tons per day. So, right, so even normally we're at 10 times that amount, and now we're at 35 times that amount these days. And so with the Kona winds, that makes the VOG a little bit worse. Not much happening in the rift zones, essentially there. And that's really all we have to note in the update. We won't go through any other updates than today's. And as you noted before, we have this new map with new statistics. You can note here there's 199.4 million cubic meters. That is that total that's greater than all the other 5 eruptions that occurred at Kīlauea Summit. So we've come quite a ways up here. We'll look at that in a minute here. But to note, in this past year, we've had, looks like 12 different fountains, 13 fountains that reached at least 1,000 feet or 300 meters in height. Here you can see that pattern changing over time. They've put out a good amount of lava, the volumes peaking at first, dropping down, and then trending upwards. And if anything, you can see that the volumes seem to be increasing recently. There's not any indication this will stop anytime soon. Our eruption rates are similarly climbing since the very beginning, and while there have been some fluctuations recently, they're still overall high and climbing. Our pauses between episodes have gotten longer over time. You can see there's some fluctuations, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter, but overall they've gotten longer over the last year. While the fountains themselves have gotten shorter in general. Actually, they got a little longer, they got a little shorter, they got quite a bit longer, they got quite a bit shorter. They see they've been trending, and most recently they've gone from pretty short to slightly longer here within the last couple months. That's the statistics for the year through 30 episodes. We've recalculated this. Now we have 2 new maps and volumes, and so what we've done is plotted in the red dots here. Every time the USGS reports a volume, like that 199 is this one right here. We then can timestamp it. We can fit a line through all the data points of the whole eruption there. That gives us this trend right here, right? We know based on the DEM that the USGS released in 2019 that scanned the crater floor after it had collapsed, right? We can calculate volumes needed to reach certain elevations. So that's what you see over here. The total amount that was vacated and needed to be refilled following a 2018 collapse. And this one over here, this column accounts for the previous 5 summit eruptions that have filled it quite a bit of the way. Right, so this is basically what's left. And so you can do some math there and figure out that, okay, for it to come to that first big ledge, the caldera floor, more or less, yeah, that's that elevation. I forget what it is now. It might be 1040 or something like that. Maybe it's 1080, somewhere in there, meters above sea level. That at this current rate puts it at day 675, which these things change, right? And when I did this a couple months ago, these dates were maybe a month or 2 months earlier. So as eruption seems to be going a little slower over time, it seems to extend and delay it a little bit more. So it's very rough calculations, assuming things stay on track for that long. It would take almost a year for us to reach by almost the end of October or November of next year that upper ledge where we're lapping under the crater floor. For us to reach that next level all the way up, we're talking about where we're spilling on the edge of the crater. We're on the low spots. That's over near Kīlauea Iki. That's over near the vents now to the side of the hill that's built behind it. That you're looking at about a year and a half. That would be sometime in July of 2027. And for it to recover all the volume that's lost, that's like a broad loss of the sagging all the way even outside the crater. So meaning you'd have to spill out and lap onto the crater and that area as well. That would take 2 1/3 years, as you see here, and take it to 2028. So that's a long, long way out for anything to change. We've only been going for 1 year thus far. So, okay, let's say that 1 year looking forward is a reasonable thing to consider. But 1.5 or 2.5 years, that's getting way out on a limb there to say that things won't change before then, right? So can we keep it up for another almost a year? That's the big question. If we do in a year's time, we may be talking about lava spilling onto the caldera floor. That's what you maybe can take away as a short version here. All right, so let's move on to what other data we have. We have the Mounts project here that has a couple of INSAR shots from the 18th and the 12th. So starting with the earlier one, at the one that spans episode 38, here we see concentric rings showing several cycles of contraction because it's going blue to orange to red, or to red to orange towards the center. That's going away from the camera. So everything sinking as the summit reservoir deflated, centered underneath here. That's what we saw through the end of episode 38. And then in the week since then, we see the opposite pattern, blue going to green towards the middle, which is inflation and swelling of the ground again in the same area over the magma reservoir over here on this eastern side of the inner crater. And you can see it doesn't fill quite as fast as it sags, when it lets it all out in less than a day. Last time it was 12 hours. And it's taking 1 or 2 or 3 weeks to fill. So that's the slower rate we're talking about here. But there you see everything is business as usual. No reason to believe anything will be different there. We can look at our monitoring signals a little more closely, and some of this data is blown out because of some noise, so I can't really see much for the last week of elevation. We can see overall climbing ground tilt at the summit and flat to declining ground tilt at the rift zone. That's all as it has been as well for all of the last year. Earthquake counts varying a little bit around the average of 30 per day background, but not a whole lot and not significantly. And occurring in normal bands there on the south flank. And contributing to the counts are also the Deep Pahala feeder zone from the hotspot right there, which on a map plot in blue in the steep zone over here. There they are coming in that direction. And then coming shallow, you see the summit population and the south flank population still as our main adjustment zones of the volcano. So we saw a couple big earthquakes in the south flank in the last few weeks here. Bigger, not really huge, right? A 4 and a 3. So we know it's still adjusting, and at some point, that's perhaps a likely culprit to lead this current equilibrium to end, right? Because if this moves out far enough, that's what opens the summit pathways into the southeast rift or the southwest rift, right? By this block of land moving out of the way and opening. So that's the race we play. Can we last another year without further distribution of magma pressure away from the summit? So for the last month, we still have noise in the elevation data here. Here we see once again, the East Rift showing gradual decline, following a little offset from earthquakes we talked about last week. We've seen a couple earthquake signals on the chart here. But overall, we're still recovering ground tilt. That's our proxy for the swelling of the magma reservoir underground. So we haven't quite got to our threshold that we reached last time. You can see that's their calculation there, one of their factors of their models. How fast is it going? How long will it take? And so there you are, 4 to 9 days out. There is a sand hill, very similar data. Earthquake counts here, very similar around the background for the last month, with our 2 south flank events showing here. And I'll show you that in the map as well, but overall, very similar data pattern for the last 3 months, for the whole last year. Lava depth still gaining. Earthquake counts still steadily around background, with the last high count being just before the eruption about a year ago. GPS is still doing its accordion, stretching by big amounts there. What is that in this case? Looks like it's from -6 to somewhere in a range of +5 or 6, so 11 or 12 centimeters, 4 or 5 inches, somewhere in that range. It's stretched thus far in the last week and a half. And you can see that's changing. No data coming in from the rift zone, but everything is normal there. Here's the last 5 years, earthquakes per month. You can see the buildup to our current summit eruption and previous ramp ups to other activity over the last 5 years here, going back those previous summit eruptions, which you see more clearly here. There's one back in there from December 2020, which we just are also lapping 5 years on now. There is that one from 2021, 2023, actually had a few little iterations happening there. 2024, more of the rift activity, but still showing summit signals. And here we are, 2024, 2025. And you can see how much more stable we are with that open vent, rather than quickly recovering pressure like we have following previous summit eruptions. So those are our signals, just what to expect for the next month here. Probably more of the same: deep Pahala quakes, summit quakes, south flank quakes, including potentially a couple bigger ones as they adjust like that. All right, so looking at earthquakes in particular for the last week, here's our current population, which shows not just what we're looking at in Kīlauea, but also some of these events on Mauna Loa, which also has adjustment on its east flank here and a little bit on the southwest flank, as well as showing some of these other deeper events that are settling of the island elsewhere, away from the most active volcanoes. So that's how that looks. And we'll look at the earthquakes by size for the last week here, the largest being a 2.7 deep event over Pahala, a couple of them actually in that same zone, and otherwise a 2.6 over on a Kona side makes third place. So nothing really noteworthy there. The island is alive and adjusting always, right? So there she goes, doing her thing. So just to touch base here on Mauna Loa, since this will be our last update of the year, we're still at normal and green with the rates returning to background levels, noting that the prior month had over 147 magnitude 3 and smaller earthquakes under the summit region. Month before that had 123, so we're really down here. And so like during that time is when we see this change, where we see the contraction of the GPS at the summit and the dropping of elevation up there as well. And so there over the last year, you see where those earthquakes are concentrated mostly over those particular couple months. They're under the summit a little bit to the southwest, this sector to the northwest, and somewhat over here as well, but really dispersed all across there. Whereas really in the last month, it's quieted down quite a bit. You still see a little bit of it happening, but very slow rates. And especially if you look at the last week, you see, oh, look, there's a little flare up in the northwest, but that's really all there is to note this week. So it's a slow, continual refilling, everything back in line. You can see if you look at depth versus time for the last 5 years, following the 2022 eruption, we had much more exciting things like this deep magma swarm that then fed shallow into the volcano. So nothing that exciting. It's just all coming through the pathway now and filling and spreading. Most exciting thing really being this adjustment that we see here, which if we go back in time for the last 5 years, that's really a small little blip there compared to all the magnitude we've accumulated since. And similar to the little adjustments we were having before when we saw Mauna Loa's flank adjusting too. So very small in the long term, but this may become more frequent perhaps if we're starting to see it happening here. The conditions must be about right. So if we zoom further into time in Mauna Loa, we can see the earthquakes for the last year maybe concentrating a little bit further here in those couple months. And then here's our quiet with a little bit more. Looks like a cluster coming into the very end recently here. Here's our spike from before. And that's just here over the last week, actually. This is the whole month. With coming back to the last week, seeing this slight little climb up to a grand total of 5 earthquakes in one day in the summit. So very minor stuff there. And there they are. That's that little cluster that occurred northwest. Okay. A little grouping of events. So that's it. That's our monitoring update. We'll take a break for our community corner here, and we'll come back and we'll do some time lapses of this whole last year eruption, featuring the different cameras here, and see how that goes to wrap up our year here. So let me bring on Lou.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Let's get Lou in here. Hey, Lou.
Hey. All right. Yeah, I think I'm good. I was a little laggy. So if I, hey, you know what? Who do we have up here for ASL? Hey, there's Carrie. I think our ASL team got their Christmas wish a little early. I might have to go slower than normal tonight. Help you out. All right, let's see what's going on around the community. Bog is the story from what Phil Lynch was just saying. And it's pretty much that's been up there. That's why don't have a lot of observations. We're just going to go right into community corner. You can see a nice shot there from 9th Island Gina up on top from last week when we met them up there. We actually had a view, and there is lava viewing, or not lava viewing so much, but just volcano viewing all over the island. You could be up there at Mauna Kea and check it out. Here's another shot over there on Byron's Ledge. If you're ever wondering, if you walked around, you'll be able to see pretty much anywhere around that caldera. Stay in bounds. There's our famous eyeball map right there where you can see it, and it's kind of an exaggerated view of just wherever you walk from Wake Kahuna all the way around. Wake Kahuna is something interesting, and I guess it's kind of into observations last week when we were up top there. We had the pretty much the normal VOG we've seen for the last week, but we left, and about 5 minutes later, they had shut down that area and cleared it out because the VOG had come up over the top. So just be aware of where you're at up there right now. Welcome Center is open, and make it your first stop, they say. And I have a shot there, or there we go, of the visitor center progress that's going on. You can see they got the cool looking roof up. They were working hard. There was a bunch of guys out there. There's a nice back shot of it. And off to the side, I don't know. Dane, do you know what this building was? It wasn't on the plans when I looked at them earlier. It's on the north side of the visitor center. Do you know what's supposed to go there?
I do not.
Yeah, I don't.
Right, I don't know.
I remember that this is supposed to be the outdoor lanai area, but I don't recall what this building. Phil, do you know? You're back there. Maybe Phil will take a look if he's got a second. Figure out what that was. There's another shot of it right there. There is a new shot of the HVO building that's going up there. They're really pretty close. The lights were on. The lights were on in there. Nobody was home, but the lights were on. Beautiful building.
Getting closer.
Yeah, they're close. Definitely closer. I honestly want to say it's probably one of the nicest buildings.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, truly is a nice building. There it is.
Slight upgrade from the old Jagger.
Oh, absolutely.
Just minor kind.
But I mean, if you look at a lot of the buildings we have, east side, west side, good job whoever put this together. They deserve it too. One more shot of the building up there. There we go. All right. Carrie, you still with me? All right. Parking. I love this shot. Until I get back up there and get another one, I'm going to keep using it because it just really, truly shows what happens up there during an episode. Parking on the side of the road isn't as advised because it just drops off. The nene are up there. You get blocked in. They are enforcing parking now. They are enforcing a little bit more activity that's going on because of how busy it is. Be aware. But Mauna Loa Road is open. If you're looking for an amazing place to watch an episode, you can make that drive up Mauna Loa Road. And stay hydrated. Exposure is a real thing. The National Park would like to remind everybody that safety is your responsibility. Dress in layers, bring out your sunblock, and wear a hat. And here's our video from last week. I did not change this one here. It reminds everybody, water bottle filling stations are still not set up. They will be at Wake Kahuna eventually, but you'll have to buy some water either at the Volcano House or over at KMC. Otherwise, bring your own. And let's see if my page turns. Here we go.
What kind of special thing do we have?
We have to put this in. Otherwise, I get the email. So here we go. Told you I was laggy. There we go. I added a bonus.
This is also with a real shot, or wait, what?
Why
are there beavers? What was that? 2 beavers?
That what? Because I put cats in there, and I just thought, why would a cat be at a volcano? Beaver seems more.
So beavers was a better solution. Yeah,
beaver was a better option for me. Yes.
Okay.
It seemed more realistic.
Uh-huh.
Just a little fun around here. Stewardship at the summit still going on. Help take out the invasive species. December 20th is the last one of the year. Meet at 8:45 up there. They will provide some tools for you, but bring some of your own gear if you think you need it. Ranger guided programs are happening up at the Kīlauea Summit. You can see the sign up there at Waikahuna. It's right outside the bathroom. I saw it when I was up there. That's happening almost daily. Life on the Edge is the only program I know of that's going on. So you might want to stop in at the Welcome Center and ask. And here we go with Volcano Awareness Month. Phil talked about it a little bit. We're going to be talking a lot about it coming up here next month. First one, though, is kicking off here with, it's not Volcano Awareness Month. It's a special presentation of the 1 year of eruptions on December 23rd. There's a lot of chatter on whether we hit episode 39 coming up here for the 1 year. Put your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see who's thinking we're going to get it on the 23rd. But you can go up there at 10 o'clock on December 23rd over to the Steam and Bluff and listen to the year of eruptions. It's been quite a year of episodes. Saturday, January 3rd kicks off the Volcano Awareness Month. This is with Mike and Drew. I would recommend definitely. I'm sorry, this is with Ash and Flinders. It's a 45-minute walk and talk at the Pacific Tsunami Museum. First one they've had there in a while. I don't definitely would check this one out. Ashton is a fantastic speaker. Next one is with Mike Zoller and Dr. Drew Downs. That is in the park there. And that will be over at the Kīlauea Overlook and from 10 to 11 on January 6th.
Could be a good one.
That's going to be a real good one.
Yeah.
And let's see, let me go right back up here. And then there's one that's right after that. And Dane, this is the one in Waikoloa Village, right? That's with Dr. Ken Hahn.
Right. We're going to try and stream some of these since they're on Thursdays. They're going to play at roughly the same time we do our updates. So we're going to probably just try and live stream some of those ones that go alongside.
Yep. So pay attention to what we're doing on Thursday nights because we're hoping to get some of these in here that are on Thursday night, shot to you guys live. And let's see what else I have on here. And you can sign up for our email list at hveri.org/subscribe. Get onto our subscriber list and our volcano eruption notification list. Be notified when episode 39 kicks off. And there we go, Dane.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today. You know, we rely on viewers like you to keep the thing going, but we also rely on the Bye-Bye Grant program through the County of Hawaii. The county helps support this program as well as our digital resilience and youth development program. So appreciate all of the support there. And yeah, I'd like to thank all the supporters that have donated. We do take donations over on HVERI/org/donate, throwing it up on the screen there. And we do have a bunch of donations come through. Let me check.
We got from Raven there, and I'm just double checking on my end, and that is all I have.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, we got through it, and we, appreciate everybody that has been. So, we got through our donation drive. We were able to hit our goal, so we appreciate everybody that contributed to that whole thing. And we will be back, with your support next year.
2026, right around the corner, huh?
Right. We do have some time lapses to finish on, so I'll go ahead and get Phil back in here, unless you got anything else there, Lou.
No, that's it. I just want to say real quick thank you to everyone who's donated, supported us this year, whether it was on our donation page, hveri.org/donate, through here. Since we started the giving program on YouTube, we get 100% of your donation now. So it doesn't matter whether you donate here or there. We appreciate that. And to all of you that watch us week in and week out, your support is what keeps us going. So we appreciate it. Happy holidays, everybody.
Right. Thank you, Lou. And let's go ahead and get Phil back in here. Hey, Phil. It looks like ASL is swapping out as well. I did not do that. Oh, they
Right.
did give Volcano Watch out, huh?
Yeah, let's jump over to our Volcano Watch because it's actually a little bit of a review as well. And look at this. This is 1 year of Kilauea's eruption, just like we've talked about, and they're highlighting the hazards. And we have an interesting new graphic here. So over here on the left, you see what they're saying is distal, like the further away fall of tephra from episodes 1 through 38 here. And they show in orange this moderate amount, and it actually will come down here. Say moderate means more than 2 millimeters. Minor means between 1/2 and 2 millimeters. And minimal is less than 1/2 a millimeter, right? So here is that highest concentration up in Kau Desert in the national park area. But you can see that this minor amount goes all the way down through Pahala, through Naalehu as well, in this big swath, right? This big, I don't know what you call it, like extension there, right? And if you look at the minimal, it doesn't show up quite so well on my screen right here, but it looks like that is the area outlined somewhat like this over here, right? Where there is falling all the way to Captain Cook, minimally, but not really accumulating more than, call it 1 Pele's hair or 2 here and there. And that's probably what this means in this area. And then noting here, what we reported last week, the distance of 0.4 miles from the vents to the V3 camera. And you can see tephra 4 feet thick, 1 mile from the vents over here. Enough to melt plastic also being reported. So quite a bit of inclined fountaining happening there. Let's come back here. They've already noted in the past ash fall in Pahala, 20 miles downwind. Here's the windshield wiper with how much of this Pele's hair and tephra is just piled up on it against the windshield of a vehicle. Here's where they've had to dig out solar panels, where the stuff's falling, not only getting buried, but it's hot, so it's melting some of the plastic cases they have there for their equipment. And final moment of the V3 camera before it went offline with all this lava coming right at it and probably hitting one of the cables before the housing and knocking everything offline there. So that's the impacts from this year-long eruption. You know, they note that they're going to that this is really only the 3rd time or 4th time that there have been similar high fountain eruptions, apart from Kīlauea in 59, from Mauna Ulu from 1969 to 74. Those being the first 2, and the 3rd one being the first early episodes of Pu'o'o, and that was from 1983 to 1986. So they're going to cover that, therefore, so will we in January. But we have much more information now because we have more cameras, we have more technology and sensors, all that kind of thing. So they're noting here all of that all the accumulation of a year's worth of activity there at the summit. They're noting here that new hill being 140 feet tall, 42 meters behind the vents on the northwest rim. They're noting that where the V3 live camera was located, 0.4 miles from the vent, the site is now buried under 10 meters, 32 feet of tephra. It fell as far as the Sandhill Station, about 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers from the vent, melting plastic components there. The Sandhill is now buried beneath about 4 feet of tephra, all the way there a mile away. So it's really interesting, and that's the key safety message. During the high fountaining, there are life-threatening hazards within that area, all within the national park, especially the downwind area, all that closed area especially. We keep hearing about people walking out into the closed area in the national park. It's really stupid. You know, you might be risking your life doing that. It's really not worth it. And plus, anyone who needs to go and find you or help you is also going to have to risk their life too. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because, as you can see here, that's intense, right? For it to be burying the site and 30 feet of tephra there. Yeah, pretty crazy. That means that the engineers have to keep monitoring, and they have to do that by snowshoeing across the tephra to retrieve the stations and revive them, keep measuring what's going on there. They're tracking things all throughout the holidays as well. So that's our volcano watch from this week, and especially these graphics were ones to share as far as the hazards here. And so from that, we'll move on to just looking back at Kīlauea over 2024 and 2025. Mostly 2025, where we only had a little bit of the end of December in 2024, but that is what we have here. And well, let's see here. I think I might have forgotten to. Oh, no, I did have something else here. So I did. Well, here's what else I found. I'm trying to figure out which of our concepts we ended up going with the national park. But so I figured it might have been concept 3 because here's the one that shows a USGS field station at a military camp, right? So I'm not sure what's some version of that. But to answer Lou's question here, what's going on up here at the summit, right? There's addition to the big lanai. There's an addition happening there and some renovations happening here with all the parking as well. So I don't know if that answers Lou's question if you're watching Lou here. All right, I was going to move on. So, okay, coming on to our time lapses. I think I did have one more. Let me find it here. Is it this one? Yeah, okay. So we're going to start with this. This is a KW camera for the last 5 years, just to kind of set the stage here of where we are. And I'm not sure how smooth these will be, or this is not going to play. But here, anyways, I guess we'll just see the opening view. Here is the view of the water lake that occurred before those eruptions of lava into the crater over those first 5 years. So jumping to our current eruption happening now, I'm going to play this pretty fast. This is the whole last year, 1 image per day from the KW camera, with the note, the caveat that this camera was knocked offline for 3 months of the year. Itself haven't been being impacted by lava, but you can see this changing views of the crater and filling of the crater over the past year here for KW camera. And then let's start playing here. Let's start this from the beginning here. Just a KW camera going through the episodes of what's available. And as I play this, feel free to jump in, Dane, if you guys want to know anything of you guys see here or in the chat. Maybe we'll put some chat on the screen, and I might throw some background music on for us here too. But here's to start our KW camera moving through the episodes, filling the crater floor there. You see those first few episodes were not so tall and moving from this right side to the left side. Later on, it floods much more so.
In here, if you got anything.
Yeah, it's really been reflections on the year is where we're at here, right? This is how we're gonna end our year of covering this eruption here, and you guys can see how many times we've come through and updated you with views of the crater floor filling with lava, views of fountains. This camera was up through episode 15, and that was that first spray of lava that gave us our first high fountains that landed on these cables, knocked it offline. I think it might have been until episode 27 before it comes back. So here that comes. Episode 15. That's the last view. It gets put back online. We get a bit a crisper image.
Skip there when that was down.
About 12, maybe.
Yeah, it was a decent chunk, wasn't it? We were without the best camera, really. One of them. Now we have the V3 waiting period. Isn't that one supposed to be coming back soon?
Is it coming back to V3? I haven't heard any details on that.
I was hearing rumblings that the V3 is coming back. They're looking to replace it or something. I mean, it's such a big camera that how could you let it go?
Right, but if the site is actually buried under 30 feet, then they probably need a whole bunch of new equipment, and they can call it something similar, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So let's do the B2 camera next. And here, B2 didn't last very long either. It only went through episode about 14, I want to say. But it was closer to the crater floor. And as the crater floor was filling, first it was catching the lava flows further away. They kept getting closer and closer. We saw the crater floor bulging from flows moving over top of it, but also from being injected below.
You know what would have been cool with this camera, and I'm sure nobody thought about it until afterwards, was, hey, what if we put a thermometer on it that gave real-time readings about how hot it's getting at said camera? Right? Because you don't realize, like, it looks like it's a ways away, and then one of these frames, it's going to be a little too close coming up here in a bit.
And right, they're cutting, I mean, it's cutting off the bottom, right? Like, I mean, the bottom is raising towards the camera, and there's lava out of the flow.
Right.
Like, look at that big flow. So episode 12, 13, some of these were alternating, staying further to the north, but occasionally one flow would come close to the south. So maybe it wasn't 15, maybe it was 18, actually. That's how long this one lasted. There was one of those northern flows. 17 was a littler one. Look at the bulging, and here comes 18, and there is the melted case of this camera. And this is the one that actually became the V3, right? The housing got replaced, but the actual camera got renamed the V3 before it was also destroyed. So here's B2, 1 per day. You really see that rising of the crater floor over that about 4-month period there that this camera
Pretty
was
quick at that
actually
point. Right. At certain points, it really pops in there. Like, it moves all that. Hurry up and wait.
Yeah, and you can see it when it changes texture, that's a big flow coming across, but when you see the same feature is just lifting up and it's getting injected from below. Well, that's the tribute to the B2 camera here. Served us well. So the B1 is further away. And we started off here. Episode 1, but this is the one that really shows how far the lava flows come across the crater floor. Early on, we can still see these hills from the September 2023 eruption visible here. A lot of this downdrop block is still exposed. Here's more of those 2023 flows back over here. And the lava flow keeps lapping onwards like waves in the beach as the tide comes in. It gets further and further up the slope, and by today is covering all the way to this very eastern tip. You can see similar effects. The B1 camera had been down in here, so it's getting pretty close to the action. And we were similarly seeing injection of lava, not just to this area of the crater floor from the B1, B2, but also all over here from the B1. And so when we'll look at this area now, and we see like that area we saw today that's was rising and falling in the last episode. That's all floating over top of this shelf right in here. You can imagine the lava flow down through there injecting. What do you think, Lou?
Yeah, I'm watching some different things on the back. Like, we haven't even started the tougher mountain back behind there yet at this point.
Yeah,
and
really, yeah, 14, 15, 16, it gets tall and it starts building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen in the latter and these previous episodes here, like the late 20s, the 30s, we haven't seen the flow as much in the back like we had all the first episodes.
Right. Yeah, so we see more of those ooze up flows over here as well. This camera has some, it doesn't ever get destroyed or anything, but it has some connection or battery issues where it stops transmitting all the time. That's still happening to some degree. And we're thankful for what we have, but you can see with the later episodes, the bigger bursts of lava with big sheets of flows all the way covering the near side of the camera here. There are twin fountains of 35, 36, 34.
Well, I guess 37 did make it all the way to the end, didn't it? So many of these episodes we've been watching.
Yeah. Most of them do. This last one almost didn't, and that was a little bit. Yeah, that was one of the weaker flows across. Interesting. Mostly because it was spraying out of the crater the other direction, right? There was less
Yeah.
lava staying in the crater. It was building 30 feet on the rim. So that's our B1 camera for all the episodes. But I also like to look at just the 1 a day view, see how that speeds it up there. So you can see the changes here. Like, for example, this ledge getting lapped onto and filled in over time. These hills getting buried, lifting up a little bit, then eventually disappearing. Right? At one point, we had a little bit of an island from our previous eruptions sitting over here, which got buried early on and is all the way gone. Not mentioned much often anymore. You really see how our B2 camera that had been sitting down in here on the slope, how this whole slope gets slapped onto as well. And maybe I should zoom it in, see that a little more easily there. And yeah, you can see the hill growing on the backside here, as well as stuff on a shelf just below it. A lot of changes. Been a dramatic year to witness changing Kīlauea Summit. See this injection over here as well on the east side. And one last one on the B1 camera here. I thought we'd go all the way back as far as we could to when a B1 was actually further in close to the crater. So back in 2021, showing similar views, filling the crater. We had those tornadoes that were rising up. There's some gaps in time there. The camera got moved back there just in time for the flows to come and start lapping on there. There's our hills. We just started getting drowned. So here comes those flows from the last year. And that's how it all fits together there. So a few more. The F1 thermal camera.
Another camera we lost midway and then got back.
Similar. Yeah, I think between 15 and 27 again. Yeah, so it gets repositioned, get a little bit better field of view. Although this camera has been one that's challenged this eruption, especially by how wide the lava has been covering the crater floor. So it gets cut off on the right side and the left side both over time. But it does show these ooze-up flows really well. It sees through the fog. It really adds to the picture. It just doesn't have quite the full field of view. There was our jump from 15 to 27. And now you see a little bit wider field of view there.
I mean, they have it right there on the edge of that fountain.
Yeah.
You couldn't go any more over.
So yeah, there it's 35. There's precursory flows. You see this really mound growing on the right side of the camera here. See how many sheets of lava. This is just really helping us visualize that, how many sheets of lava we've had over this area over the last year, and how much lava is in there trapped in between these layers and been moving around, recycled, or what have you there. So let's move to the V1.
I was just gonna say there's a lot of slope in there too that's been added, right to the bottom of the
absolutely.
Floor. Like a whole bunch of, it looks flattish because you're so far out and at that angle, but a lot of change in there over that few miles.
Yeah, absolutely. The V1 has maybe been our most reliable camera staying online here, and so there it is. It zooms in and out though. The field of view changes a bit, but you see the smaller fountains at the vents getting a little bigger by episode 9. You start seeing that hill around the vents growing. Early on there, it's right against the crater wall, right? Now there's a big gap. It's come up so much higher.
Yeah, and then we don't even have the tephra accumulation until right about here on that back rim of the caldera, around 15, 16. Then it starts getting high enough. Before then, it's just all building the cone.
Right. As well as all those overflows that we're getting, right, that last for hours or sometimes days ahead of the actual fountains. And that's building a lot of that slope in that high area around the vents as well. That, and then the sheets of tephra, especially later on when the fountains start getting to be inclined when we get into the 30s. Not quite there yet. Here's where we start seeing the V-shaped fountains. Really, this early phase, one fountain's almost always becoming dominant over the other one eventually.
Most of the episodes, yeah. Only a few
until
of
we
them,
get,
really.
yeah, until we get into the 30s where we start having them go off two at once with the same vigor, and one isn't robbing the other for most of the duration. Here's our lateral fountains beginning in the 30s. Here's the double.
There's
And eventually our triple with a very brief start of 38, but then 38 reverting back to a single dominant fountain too.
right. A weird one.
V1. Yeah. It's our most complete set, the V1. Show you guys the V2. A lot of times has nice clear views, but didn't actually get put into place.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Right? So if I come back to the start here, right? We actually start at episode 15. Is when the V2 gets put into play. And a lot of times it gets blocked by the weather or by the fog, so the views sometimes are not great, but it does get some great views as well. It's a little bit more representative of what you might see yourself in person with a big zoom lens from the area like Volcano House or somewhere around there.
Right. Is this actually just posted on Volcano House? I'm not exactly sure where this camera is.
They have it in that Volcano House area, right? But it's
Right.
clearly very zoomed in.
Zoomed in from the roof or something, I wonder? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it might be perhaps like an awning on the first floor roof or something. I don't think it's necessarily that much higher. Yeah, I think it's yeah. To the back wall, it's
Lots of zooming happening on this one.
yeah. So we'll have to show you the V3. The V3 didn't come into play until episode 22. Remember the B1 or the B2 got knocked offline. Episode 18, repurposed in the new housing in episode 22 as a V3 camera. So that's when we start. It was actually in May with the V3. You get some great views from that side of the crater, which is why I am not surprised to hear they would want to replace something from that vantage point. Before they had the S2 camera, which was not a live streaming camera, but got similar views, and it was great as well. But it also was destroyed. So if you're going to put something on there, it would make sense to replace both with one new live streaming camera.
Right.
That really sees things that you can't see from any other direction, right? The south vent glow, especially those overflows, all this movement of that slope.
It is interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I see.
I was just going to say it's interesting how much they spent on those cameras. That I was told that those cameras were multiple thousands of dollars, and kind of shocking how expensive they were. Maybe they're cheaper now. And if I was going to go put a camera back in that spot, maybe I buy the cheap version that I don't expect to last long anyways. Type of
I think they have gotten the price down quite a bit from the last I read. I don't have the number near me right now, but I'll next time I find it, I'll pull it up. But yeah, for sure. Yeah. Here's the S2 camera. Speaking of that, the S2 camera was there for longer. It was there from the very beginning. Not a live streaming, but a time-lapse camera. So here's the S2. At the very beginning, the very first fissures, episodes 1, 2, 3, focusing into two vents. Camera wiggles around a little bit in this early phase. And the S2 had been redeployed here from the Nepal eruption 2024.
Yeah, it really was a good spot for it, and especially in those first episodes, nobody knew it was going to really anchor here for a year.
And those dual cones stacked against the crater wall. We had these interesting lava kind of flow along the backside and kind of scoot down because it was all so close still. We start having higher fountains, so they have to pan the camera upwards a little bit more. You can only catch so much of the action. And this is one of the older cameras we have here. There wasn't one of these pan tilt zoom ones.
Right. The old school cameras that we used to, that's all we had for decades.
Right.
Those were the good times compared to the times before that.
So you see it stays online that entire interval as well until just this last week. Episode 38 finally takes it out. So this camera had a good run as well. This is one of the longer lasting service cams that has been around the block here on Kīlauea.
And it's nice because all the live cameras, there's a whole bunch of pan tilt zoom going on. And this one, it's more of a static look at the area. Yeah, they had to adjust it a few times, but they try and leave it.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to make these long-term time lapses, right? When the view is not changing, because you can compare motion and things like that. When
the thing changes, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And there's our last view from the S2 camera. One of the last views there.
That's got to be right if that explosion was happening.
Took it out, yeah. So one last one from the S2 here. A little bit quicker version. This is what we started off with in our earlier summary. Just one shot per day from the S2 camera, showing that whole evolution over time a little more quickly. Not focusing so much on the episodes, but more just on a change in the landscape there. You see that hill on the left side and a big ramp up the back wall now. That wasn't there before. And everything rising up. So that's the time. Yeah, that's the last camera. So in total, 5 cameras damaged or destroyed. We had the F1, the KW, and a laser rangefinder were all damaged, then came back online. We lost the B2, got put up as a V3, lost the V3, and we also lost the S2.
Was the B2 really like totally lost? I thought it just like melted the housing on it. I thought the camera.
And it became the V3.
Okay, that's what happened. That was this progression.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, pretty cool. And here we are at the end of the year again. So yeah, just a reminder, we mentioned at the beginning, but we will be taking a little bit of a break after this episode and be getting back to you in the beginning of the year with Volcano Awareness Month and presentations from USGS. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming up on that front. So so to be specific, it'll be January 8th, right? It'll be our next live stream. Now we do expect there to be at least one episode, possibly 2 there in this time in between here. But we'll catch it all up next month. And actually what we'll do on the 8th is we'll let Dr. Ken Hahn catch us up, since that's what he'll be doing at Waikoloa. So we'll come in, we'll post on our channels ahead of time, but that'll be the day, January 8th, to look ahead. And otherwise, keep your eyes on the live streams. White Tracker Facebook group will be still going. So if you're looking for images and videos of the volcano from people that are there, check out that spot also, as well as our volcano eruption alerts, which you can check out on HVERI.org/subscribe. And then there you'll be able to get our email alerts of the episode when it begins, in case you're looking to head up there yourself.
All right, so let me just rearrange the stage here. Let's get Lou in here as well. Did that work? Oh yeah, that's like we all in here. So all right, guys. So yeah, we'll sign off for the year here. Mahalo, everybody. Appreciate everybody. Happy holidays to all of you out there, to all of our team here as well. Yeah, all up and everywhere in there, Lou.
Yep. Here with family, so I never knew who was going to walk by.
Well, let's let you get back to them, huh?
All good.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Last words for the year here. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lou.
I just want to say one more time, thank you to everybody who supported us this year with all the donations, all the time you spend watching all of our updates. Looking forward to you all coming back for another year of our digital doors being open, as Dan likes to say, and our ASL team that put up with us for hours at a time, and myself, who speaks at 100 miles a minute. So I do appreciate them. Thank you very much.
All the mod teams that are out there that we have
All
on
of our
track.
all of our mods. Definitely. So that's it. I appreciate everybody. Merry Christmas.
All right.
All right. So, all right, last time for 2025 for our nonprofit HVERI, the Hawaiian Volcano Education Resilience Institute, for Dane DuPont, Lou Atori, our ASL interpreters, Carrie and Dano Kaufman. I'm geologist Philip Ong. Aloha, everyone. Happy holidays.